So good morning and welcome to our stewardship presentation by the Finance Committee. And I'm looking for the button to share my screen so that you can see. One second. There it is. Okay, so if you can see this presentation, you'll be looking right along with me. Do you see it? There. Do you see it?
Yes, we do.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is about St. Paul's and stewardship, and we're very proud and excited about the fact that St. Paul's Ventura has been keeping the faith since 1889. Such a wonderful accomplishment, and also a great challenge to us to remember the progress that was made by our brothers and sisters who came before us. And it's exciting to think we continue that mission and that ministry. And in this time of pandemic, that's also a challenge to us, the challenge to be able to continue it beyond this time. So as you saw in your stewardship materials, we talked about honoring the past, providing spiritual support through the pandemic in the present, and preparing for the future. See if my buttons work over here. There they go. So let's start with a prayer. Always a good place to begin. Let us pray. Holy and gracious Lord, as we seek to do the work you have given us to do, put your words into our mouths, your love into our hearts, your will into our minds. Sustain us and give us strength to love, serve, and praise you this day and forevermore. Amen. So back in 2017, and for that 3-year period between 2017 and 2019, we had a wonderful project called the Comprehensive Growth Project. It was a way that made it possible for us to hire personnel and take on projects. All of it was around the idea that the church needed to be infused with some extra monies so that we could afford to do some big projects that would help us grow. And we really, for 3 years, made growth a big priority. The project covered 5 areas: music, youth and family ministries, evangelism, facility improvements, and deaf ministry. And it really did help to grow the church and started some great momentum that when it was over, we decided we wanted to continue to make growth a priority for us in the church. And to do that, what we wanted to do was to keep the people that we had hired to help us and to keep some of the programs running too. So in order to do that, we needed to increase our income by $77,000 a year. Now that sounded like a huge number, but it would help us to keep the associate rector, the music minister, the assistant music minister, the wonderful music program that was developing, the developing deaf ministry too, and our ASL interpreter, some funds not only for salaries, but also for program expenses. And we felt very strongly that we'd like to keep that. So we began to root around and try and figure out as a finance committee, how could we do that? How would we be able to keep, and to add $77,000 to a church budget is a lot of money. But when we looked into it, what we found was that the Comprehensive Growth Project had remaining funds of $100,000. And so we wanted to divide that amongst 3 years, thinking that 3 years was a great period of time to launch a program that we might in the future be able to continue on our own. So we took that $100,000 and then we also asked your help. And this is a little snip from last year's stewardship materials, where we asked everyone if they might be able to contribute a little something extra. And we talked about the difference that that could make. Our goal was to see if we could increase our pledges by an average of $25 a month. And by doing that, bring in an extra $30,000. So our goal was to bring in an extra $30,000. We asked your help about that, and man, you guys came through. As we explained in our annual report, the expected 2020 operating income increased by $45,621, mainly due to an increase in pledges. So yay you, thank you so much for that vote of confidence in the church and your dedication and commitment to the Lord and doing God's work, both here in Ventura and throughout the world. You stepped up to the plate and increased those pledges, and it makes so much difference to us. And we are so very grateful. So we wanted to make sure to say thank you to you as many times as possible for all the ways that you support the church. So let's look at what we presented to you last year as our idea of this 3 years to launch this, this new commitment to growth in the church that would cost us $77,000 a year. So we presented this last year, and you can see it has the columns for 2020, 2021, 2022. What would it take to raise, down at the bottom you see here, this $77,000 each year? So the first thought was an increase in pledge income of $30,000. And remember, we accomplished that and more. When you move over to the 2021 column and you see that $30,000 that's there, I want to make sure you understand that that is not an increase. It's just continuing what we had already captured the year before. So the idea here in 2021, the year we're going into, is our hope is that we will be able to continue to have a very similar amount of pledges. We do have a few members of the congregation who have been more affected by COVID than others, and it may affect some of our pledges this year. But we've also had some really generous and wonderful people who've stepped forward and said, is the church hurting because of the pandemic? Can we help make up some of the difference? And have been willing to help. So our hope is that we still will be able to be bringing in at least the $30,000 increase, which is just to maintain what we had done previously through 2021, and then the same thing in 2022. No increase, just that they would stay the same as they had been. We've already captured over $47,000 here. Our hope is that that will just keep going and that we can continue to count on people to keep up their pledge. Then the remaining comprehensive growth project funds. There was $100,000, and so in 2020, we are spending $47,000 of that to help us launch this. In 2021, that amount goes down to $17,000, but the expectation that we'll bring in some new tenants on the campus comes up, and we make that a $30,000 goal. Remember, this was last year that we developed this, a $30,000 goal to bring in for new tenants. So let's talk for a minute about what's happening with new tenants. We had a handful of new tenants. There was actually a little bit of competition going on between several schools over the Gooden Center, and then the pandemic started. And so all those dropped away for the time being. Also, even during the pandemic, there had been a medical technical school that was interested in moving into the youth center and taking up that space. And they loved that it was right across the street from the hospital, and they loved the layout of the space and the fact that it used to be science classrooms, and there's a big sink in the middle of the yellow room because they'd have to wash their hands all the time. And that all was going forward beautifully until they tried to get the final authorization for it, and they got the response that some of us expected, which was in the middle of the pandemic. How in the world could you assume to start a new program like that? And so they were not able to get it approved, and we did not end up moving forward on that, unfortunately. It looks like it's not likely that we can get any new tenants during the pandemic, and I don't know how long that's going to go on. So knowing that we need some more income from the campus, and that we're unlikely to be able to get a school program anytime in the next, well, near future, the vestry decided this last week to convert the Gooden Center back into a residential rental. So to do that, it's going to cost us between $60,000 and $100,000, but it will be ready to rent by June of 2021. We're already working with Lauterbach, the architectural firm, to come up with those changes and make that change. It will become a 3,600 square foot house with 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, a really big home, especially for that area, for our neighborhood that we are located in. A quick look at comps reveals that it's likely we can get $4,000 a month, probably even more than that, but let's just conservatively look at the $4,000 a month at this point. So if we can bring in $4,000 a month for the Gooden Center, that's $48,000 a year. In our first year, we'd bring in $24,000. So looking at the $30,000 we're trying to be sure to bring in, to get at least 24 there is a very good number. There may be other things that we can do to make that a little bit better, but at this point, at least there would be some new tenant income coming in. And by 2022, the new tenant income just for that one space would be $48,000. So see how we'd make our goal and we would be okay. So looking at the total funds, the $77,000 that we hope to be able to bring in 2021 looks pretty good. If our pledges will just stay fairly even with what they were last year, we use this comprehensive growth project, $17,000, and we convert the Gooden Center into residential property, it looks like we'll be pretty close to the number that we need. Also remember, the comprehensive growth project had $100,000 left, and we're not using all of it. There's actually $36,000 that's still unspent. So we could use some of that to fill in the gaps to make up the difference that we need to make this project make sense. Part of why it's so important for us to find a way to make sure that this is a solid plan for the 3 years is because it's unfair to employees. When you hire talented, wonderful people, you want to be able to tell them we have the budget to support this position for the coming 3 years and not just say, well, you know, who knows what'll happen. We really want to try and have a firm foundation for our employees and for our programs to be able to continue. So I'm going to move past this one. Remember, I'm going to have time for questions in just a minute. So the question is, how are we doing financially during the pandemic? First, we've been able to keep and pay all our staff, which is a wonderful accomplishment. Not all churches and other businesses have been able to do that. Some of our expenses on the campus are lower because the campus has been closed for so long, and some of them are actually higher too. There are some expenses involved in distance communication, and so both things are happening. All of our tenants are affected by the pandemic. Thanks be to God, this little wonderful family that rents a house from us on San Pablo has been able to continue paying their rent. We've done a little bit of rent forgiveness for our tenants for the first couple of months. We did some things to ease the burden at the beginning of the pandemic. But this little family, they lost their jobs, they got new jobs, they keep paying their rent, and they're doing a beautiful job. Everybody is trying really hard to do what they need to do, but La Familia, who's our largest tenant, they bring in $3,750 a month. They right now can't have any students on campus and they're unable to pay their rent. So we're definitely affected financially by the pandemic right now. However, we did receive a PPP loan. Liz and her team did a ton of work to make that happen. We received a loan of $70,000 and it's going to convert into a grant as soon as the monies are spent and the term of it expires and then all the paperwork's filled out that Liz and our bookkeeper will take care of. We have every expectation that it'll become a grant, and so that money is just a gift to St. Paul's at this time. And because of that $70,000 PPP loan, which will convert into a gift, we're going to end the year okay. We're going to be fine in 2020. The question is, what will happen in 2021? What's next year going to bring? And the truth is, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen next. I don't think any of us knows what's going to happen next, but we're hopeful. We're faithful. We have the Lord's word and we have these wonderful scriptural references that bring us hope. We look at our ancestors in the faith and see all of the challenges that they faced in the past and we go, wow, you know, Ours is not that bad. We didn't get carried off into Babylon, into exile. We just got sent to our rooms. We're all in timeout in our own homes. But, if they can get through it, we can get through it. If God is faithful to them, God will be faithful to us. We hope that we can bring in the same amount of pledges for the coming year that we had for 2020. That would be so great. We hope that we'll be able to renovate the Gooden Center and have it available for rental by June of 2021. The architect, by the way, says that it probably will be before that even. They think that there's plenty of time to make that happen. They felt very comfortable with that date. And we're even willing to make it a sooner date, but I like realistic goals. I would rather keep the goal and then be early than have a goal and be late. So we're leaving it at June 2021 at this point. We hope that the schools and the children's programs on campus will be able to come back soon, which means they'll be able to pay their rent again, and that'll be very helpful for us. And in the midst of all this chaos and confusion, we know that the Lord is with us and that all shall be well. So 2021 is an invitation to walk in faith, because nobody knows just what's going to happen. If you have questions, I'm going to take questions in just a second, but if you have questions after this presentation, please let us know. Talk to me, talk to Reverend Liz. That's the church phone number that's up on your screen. You can also go to our website to get more information. You can see the Rector's Stewardship Letter and the stewardship materials that are in your pledge packet. Those may be helpful too. There's a frequently asked questions in there as well. And we ask you to please make your pledge today. It's one of the number one reason that people don't get their pledge in time is they forgot. They meant to, they just forgot. So it's good when it's in front of you to just do it and get it done. And so you got your little card in the mail, so you can fill out the card and send it to us if you like doing it that way, or you can call us or you can email us or whatever and let us know what your pledge is, and then you won't have to worry. Did I do that yet or not? I don't remember. Just get it done and get it over with. It's a wonderful way to move forward and get that pledge. And again, from the bottom of our hearts, those of us who love the church, those of us who love the Lord, those of us who are so grateful for what everyone in our church from 1889 until today has accomplished, we're so grateful to you for your pledge so that we can keep doing this work and keep the mission and ministry of St. Paul's alive through this pandemic and way beyond this pandemic. I want to end with a little scripture. But the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all that I have said to you. Peace I leave you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. We come to our pledge campaign not out of fear, but out of gratitude for all that the Lord has blessed us with. And we know that ultimately, we're not the ones in charge of St. Paul's. This is the Lord's church, and we are standing by ready to be God's faithful servants in whatever way we are called to serve. So thank you. We're going to go ahead and open up everybody's microphone again. And I think I can take this off and stop sharing so I can see you and see if there's anybody with any questions. There we go. Anybody got a quick question or thought? Any burning concerns?
So I'll go.
Oh. Yeah.
Hey,
hi,
good
Paula.
morning, everybody.
Hi, nice to see you.
I know, it's so great to see you all. And I been laughing with my family because I've attended church more in the last 6 months than I think I had in the last 6 years. I think I've only missed one service. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you all. And thank you for the presentation. I think it was terrific. It's great to understand not only what's been going on this year, but what you expect to happen. The plan for the Gooden Center, I know it's been talked off and on for a lot of time, and I think it's phenomenal that it's coming together. It certainly seems like it's the right time to do it, right? I think it'll be great. 100,000 doesn't seem like enough to get those changes made, but I'm sure you've done your due diligence and it'll happen. And the pledge packet I thought was terrific. So I just wanted to be sure to thank you all for your hard work in pulling that all together. I know the time it takes to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we went with the architect through the building and noticed how much of it was already done. So this very simple changes to the kitchen. The living room's already there with the fireplace, and we just recently recarpeted it with commercial carpet because Kinder Music meets in there now. And the one bedroom that's fine, it only needs paint and carpet, or paint and flooring. We'll probably put in flooring instead of carpet. And the one bathroom doesn't need to be moved or changed. It just needs to be refurbished and made current, and new fixtures and things. And then where they're going to open the wall so that from the front door into where the living room is right now, you have to walk through around the other far end of the house to get there. But on the plans for what it used to be, you can see where the wall is, where it wasn't before, and they're just going to cut it out and make a passageway and then an entryway closet. Talked about the possibility of turning it into a duplex. And that, unfortunately, is considerably more money. To convert it into a duplex is more than double what it will cost to make it into a single family residence because of the sewer charges, the new electrical and sewer in order to separate the units, and then the soundproofing that it requires, and other codes for the city. The architect assured us that it was considerably more money, and it's also a lot more time. And because we want something more quickly, we plan on renovating with the thoughts in mind of keeping it as flexible as possible. So when we renovate it, then we'll already know what the plans would be for changing it into a duplex in case later we decide between tenants, you know what, we'd rather have this be 2 units. We can have that ready to go. We kind of know where it would be and how it would lay out so that we wouldn't have to take down walls we just put up, and it will make sense. We're also going to be flexible enough to that it could be a school and that it could be a nonprofit business that needs meeting room space. The bedrooms become meeting rooms. So it would be flexible enough that over the next 30 years or whatever, it could be used in whatever way was needed. But right now, what we can get a tenant for this month, if we had it, is residential. And so that's what we want to move forward on. We also are being blessed with a wonderful bequest from the Weldons. And when that comes in, the vestry is not yet decided where the money comes from. But when that comes in, it's likely that that'll either infuse our savings, and from our savings comes the money to pay for this, or perhaps the Weldons will give us from the bequest the funds to make that happen, which is such a wonderful and loving gift and would be so beneficial to the church that it's a great way. I know that Rod and Katie always wanted to support the church in whatever ways we needed. And they were so sweet. And Rod was constantly, like slipping us a check for this or that. Shh, there you go. It's okay. It's handled. Just such beautiful, loving way of caring for the church. I can just see the two of them going, make it into a house. Come on, make it happen. And let that bless the church. So we're not worried about where the money will come from to do the renovation. We know that it's going to be coming to us, and it's going to be fine. So thank you, Paula. Did you have any question or anything in that, or?
No, just wanted to throw my 2 cents in. I think it's fabulous. I think it's great. And oh my gosh, a 5-bedroom, 3-bath in Ventura in that neighborhood. I mean, it's just, or in any neighborhood for that matter in Ventura. I'm sure you're going to have people lined up.
Yeah.
To want to rent it. Yeah.
I think
it's great. It's very exciting.
I think we'll be good. And they're just, it's like a few walls here. We're going to upgrade the windows while we're at it. We're going to put the bathrooms pretty much back where they were, because in the plans you can see it. And we've already had the lines scoped to make sure that they can accommodate that. Sure enough, bathroom 1 goes here, bathroom 2 goes here to make a nice master suite. And there you go. He says, really, it's not that hard to put this back the way it was. So That's what they're going to work on, except the atrium. It used to have this atrium in the middle of the house, and we're still trying to figure out that's like this big family room or it's a TV room. The original house also had its own sewing room and indoor laundry room. The place is huge. It has plenty of space for all kind of stuff. So we'll make it nice. We'll renovate it back and make it nice. And I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Other questions, thoughts? In that case, we have a couple people who are going to speak to us today and tell us a little bit about pledging. They're also members of the Finance Committee, so they'll talk to you a little bit about how important it is to us as we do our work that we have your pledges to work with, because we can't create a budget out of nothing. In order to be able to make the budget, you have to commit to giving us the funds, and then we can take it and do something wonderful with it. So let's start with Dan Wakely.
Good morning. I'm not going to talk a lot about the Finance Committee, but just my thinking about pledging. I used to think about supporting specific ministries of the church when I was pledging, and now that some of those are operating differently or not operating at all, I've really come to think about the fact that how important our church community is, and that how your pledge supports that and makes it possible that we have that we can continue that community and have those ministries and resources available in a physical form when we return, whenever that is. But it's just made me realize how important our community is and how valuable it is to each of us.
Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it. Let's go to Drew and Anna Darby. Hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Drew. I'm on the Finance Committee on the vestry, and I'm the treasurer right now, and this is my wife, Anna. I had just had a few thoughts, and Anna, you can chime in too if you want, but I think just with a personal point, as a young family not rolling in dough, it's hard to, make that commitment to set aside some money, I know, but I definitely have learned that, and Reverend Susan has talked about this, but doing that first and then having the faith that God will help you work out the rest is really vital. But also just on a practical level, the Realm church management platform that we have, it's on onrealm.org, and I think we all can log into it and see like our giving and stuff. If you don't have your information, you should definitely contact the office and take a look at that, because you can also do an automatic payment. And I know you can do that other ways too, but that's how we do our pledge. And that's really made it easy for us to just kind of set up an automatic payment, and then we're not deciding whether we're going to pay it each month or whatever. And it really helps us just make sure that we're doing our pledge. From like the perspective of the vestry and the Finance Committee, though, I just have to say, I didn't really think about it on the other side, but working on the backside in the Finance Committee, trying to see how everything is going to run and everything, I've just really been amazed at how generous people have been, and it comes back to you guys, the members, all of us, and our willingness to just be involved, not just financially, but just be invested in the church. And it's just, that's the biggest part of it. And you really feel God working through that when you work on it. And so I just really encourage you to participate in that if you're on the edge about it. And the other thing about it, pledging, I grew up in a church that didn't do pledges. I don't know how they planned, but I was mostly familiar with pledging from like the local public radio station and stuff, but it's kind of like that, like if you really are supportive of it. You know, it's great to put your money there, and it really does help us figure out how much we have to work with for the next year. And there's so much uncertainty with the pandemic and everything. So pledging really helps. And if you've been giving, but you're not having been pledging, we really ask that you think about pledging. Yeah, and then I just want to finish with a shout back to the Comprehensive Growth Project. When that was coming to an end, we had a lot of discussion about how we're going to keep all this great stuff going. We really saw God work at work. Like the music ministry has just been amazing. I think everyone would agree. It's been really cool to see the people like on the choir get more involved in the church and things like that. That's just become such an important part. So we want to remember, how are we going to keep that going? And so if that's a part of the church that you're really into, that budget stuff that Susan was talking about is really important. And this whole pandemic thing, it felt like a wrench in the gears. We were on such a roll, and I'm really praying and hoping that we can just keep rolling once we get back to some kind of normal. So that's just the other kind of point I wanted to emphasize. So thanks, everyone.
Anna, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on really quick. I've been on the Flower Guild for I think 3 years or more, and then joined the Altar Guild I think about a year ago, but I was only able to actually serve on that committee a few times because we were in quarantine and we're not in the church preparing. But through kind of the back end of those ministries, saw just what goes into all of those things. And how much benefit I'm really getting from those. I never really thought about what I got out of our church, other than, you know, the sermon and loving that. And of course, you know, Sunday school for Philippa is fantastic and really amazing. But all of those things, the flowers, the Altar Guild, the music, the childcare, and everything that all the people behind the scenes do, really just, I benefit so much from all of those things, from every one of them. And as Drew said, maybe, you know, we don't have a huge pledge, but we're part of that community that supports those things, and that just makes it even more meaningful. So I'm glad that we pledge, and we're going to keep doing it.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak from the Finance Committee? Rose, yeah, let's hear from Rose.
Yeah, I really appreciate what everyone has said. And so when I've been thinking about how I give, so I remember when I started coming to St. Paul's, the first person I met actually was Kay Armstrong, who was, of course, in the welcoming ministry, right? And so I remember in the early years feeling really inadequate about my ability to pledge, because you know, Ventura is an expensive place, and Bill and I were young, and we were trying to buy a home, and you know, it was just financially really a struggle. And I remember one time Father Jerry just telling me in this discussion about how you grow into that, and that things financially, it would become less of a struggle as we moved forward. And also too, the importance of what I was able to contribute in terms of time and talent, and that it was really a three-legged stool of time, talent, and treasure. And that has really stuck with me over the years. And one of the things that I love about this community is, having been on the Finance Committee lots of times over the years, the absolute faithfulness of this group of people in terms of, you know, pledging and being really consistent about that. And how my observation is that this is really the most egalitarian place that I am, right? That people bring what they can to the table, and that it's all very holy. In terms of the practical matter, so I use PayPal, and I could do an automatic thing from my bank, right? But for me, it's really important every month. The first thing when I sit down and pay my bills is to recommit to this community by doing it sort of from PayPal. And I know PayPal is less desirable because there's a fee for the church. So what I'm doing this year is I've already submitted, my pledge to the office, and I've committed to providing extra to cover that fee. But it's really important for me personally to sit down every month. And it used to be I wrote the check, but now what I do is I do it from PayPal. But I agree also with Drew how grateful I am in terms of the way people are responding now and always. And it makes it easier for us to continue this work. And this work is really important. I mean, this is just such a great place to be.
Thank you very much, Rose. John, did you want to say something?
Sure. People have spoken about all the great things that the pledge supports. I want to talk a little bit more personally and perhaps selfishly about why my pledge is a really important tool for me in strengthening my faith. And I know nobody else doubts or questions, but I do. I struggle with God quite a bit. And I'll tell you something I learned a long time ago as a teacher, especially the first day of class, trying to quiet down a group of students that are more interested in meeting each other than in talking to me. And that is, if I reached into my wallet and I took out a $20 bill and held it up, I suddenly had their silence and their complete attention. I don't know whether it was the money itself or just the shock that a teacher actually had a whole $20 bill all in one place at one time. But money grabs our attention. It is not something that human beings, including myself, are quiescent about. And so what I have learned is that by making a pledge that is sufficient enough that it's not trivial, it has my attention. So my attention is on my faith, on my community, on our mission. I care about what's being done with that money, as opposed to, yeah, I show up and I throw money in the plate and, oh, the church is struggling over this or that, or there's this problem in our community. Oh, isn't that sad? Okay, it's real different when it's my money, okay? Because that's, well, putting your money where your mouth is. So for me, in the midst of my questioning, in my doubting, in my, I love the word Israel, he struggles with God. In the midst of my struggling with God about what has meaning, I think it's useful, whether you're a member of this faith community and this is where your pledge goes, or for whatever the things are that the Spirit moves you to do that has meaning in your life. If you also put your money there, it brings you down to, well, Scripture again, Matthew 6:21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, and your attention. So that's what I get out of it, in addition to whatever good comes of the pledge, is it keeps my mind on my faith. And the old debate about is it faith or is it works? Well, when your attention is on your money and that's where it's going, you you walk along, you struggle with both your faith and your works in this life and in this community. And you don't need me to tell you what a gift it is and what it has been in my life to have the association of this community and my beloved friends and the things that we all struggle with, both with each other and together in our community. So that's my 2 cents worth about why this is a good thing.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on in a minute to some coffee hour conversation, but before we go, is there anybody else who would like to say anything? So I want to say thank you. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for coming and listening to this. Thank you for caring about St. Paul's and about one another. And thank you for your pledge. We really, really appreciate it. So I'm going to turn off the recording